I'm here with two of my colleagues, Cesare Mainardi, the head of our North American practice and the author of the forthcoming book, The Essential Advantage: How to Win with a Capabilities-Driven Strategy, and Ken Favaro, the head of our strategy practice and the author of the book, The Three Tensions: Winning the Struggle to Perform Without Compromise. We're here to talk about growth, and particularly about growth in the context of strategy. It's an issue that obsesses CEOs. It's an issue that obsesses the stock market. Companies frequently speak of a growth gap or a gap between the price of their stock and their own growth expectations. It's an issue that leadership teams struggle with, particularly in times like this, when demand is not very particularly strong, but when at the same time the expectations for performance are high. And I'd like to begin, Cesare, if I can, by asking you, if you look at the context now, as companies struggle to get out of the crisis, growth seems to be foremost on their agenda, but also perhaps the single biggest challenge that they face. Why is this, and how does this show up?
Markets reward sustained bottom line growth. At a certain point, cost reduction, performance improvement runs out, and that bottom line growth has to be fueled by sustained top line growth. And that means providing a better value proposition for customers of a market that a company is serving. And that's the real essence of what these companies are trying to do now. And as they try to improve coming out of the downturn, the most important question that they need to address is how is it in a recovery market that they're going to continue to outperform competition in delivering the value that their customers or consumers require.
So you can't cut your way to prosperity. At a certain point, you've got to grow it. And yet I often see, as I just look at the newspapers, that people say, oh, well, I'm going to go and find a fast-growing market. Is that the way to do it, or are there better approaches?
Yeah, well, you certainly don't want to grow where the money isn't.
That's true.
So, but and that's one of the factors is where is it possible to make good money, because that's all else equal is where you would want to focus your energies on growth. But we all know that all else is not equal, and that it's really the marriage of where the money is and what your capabilities are. And it's only by finding the combination of where you can win and where it's possible to make good money that you find the best avenues for growing the company.
I get a sense that a lot of times people forget that second half, that they, my generic growth strategy is, well, I'm going to grow in emerging markets and I'm going to grow by technological innovation, and nowhere is the question really engaged, can we actually do this? I mean, do we actually have the capability of doing that? That's part of the argument of the book, Ches, of The Essential Advantage, isn't it?
That's at the core of our argument in the book. Many growth strategies look the same company to company. As you point out, they're looking at emerging markets. They're looking at acquisition, growth through acquisition. There are all sorts of different levers that a company can pull. But at the end of it, real sustained growth comes from a better value proposition to the market served and to the customer served. And that has to mean doing something better than competition and meeting the needs of that market that has been identified and chosen. And that comes from doing something better, and that comes from expressing the capabilities of the firm in a way that other firms cannot.
What do you mean by capabilities?
Firms that are best at driving growth, best at driving performance, have identified 3 to 6 things that really make a difference in terms of their meeting market expectations. And they've woven them together in a system that causes them to outperform everybody else. And they're quite specific to the way in which they've chosen to compete. So for example, if Pfizer Consumer Healthcare chose to provide better medicinal therapeutic products, that meant that they had a different kind of innovation that created medicinal therapeutic products, an ability to create claims, an ability to market those claims to consumers, an ability to affect how those claims were marketed in different regulatory environments. As you can see, there are different capabilities that a company needs to be able to create a value proposition that's differentiated and that meets customer expectations.
3 to 6 sounds small. Why should I narrow my ambitions to 3 to 6?
It sounds like a narrowing of ambition, but it returns to focus. We have found that there's very few things that make the difference as they work in a system. And we have found that companies that try to go too far afield and that work and list a long set of things that would cause them to do well in a market really miss the focus of what it is that they're trying to do. And our research has shown that those companies that bet on a few things cause capital to flow where it needs to flow, cause expense investment to flow to the few things that make a difference, And when companies do that, they outperform competition.